Good morning. Welcome to the Thursday, July 13th, 2017 meeting of your Santa Rosa County Board of County Commissioners. It's a little after 9 a.m. and we'll call the meeting to order. We start each meeting with prayer and the pledge, and we have with us this morning Pastor Tom Thurman with us. And thank you for being here today. If we could, if you have any cell phones, please put those in a silent mode for us, and I would ask everyone to stand at this time. And after the prayer, I've asked Commissioner Salter to lead us in the pledge.
Good morning, and I thank you for this opportunity to come to you. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for this morning, this beautiful day that you've given us. Lord, we're here to acknowledge that you are sovereign. You're sovereign over all. You're the creator of all. Lord, we're here to pray for this county commission as the meeting is about to progress. We're here to pray for your intervention, your will, for guidance from you. And Lord, I pray for these individuals as they do their daily work. Lord, for them to have a heart for you, have a desire to serve you, and for all things be for the good of your glory. Lord, we thank you for loving us, and we thank you for Jesus. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Commissioner Salter. Now have the approval of the minutes from the June 22nd, 2017 regular and special meetings. Those minutes were provided in your backup. If there are no changes or modifications to those minutes, which our clerk and staff does such an amazing job, we rarely, if ever, have any modifications to the minutes. I would move approval without objection of those minutes. Hearing no objection, those are approved. Now we'll have the approval of today's agenda, and we'll start with my right. Good morning, Commissioner Parker.
Good morning. Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Vice Chairman Cole.
Good morning, everybody. Nothing new to add. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Salter.
No additions, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to take this opportunity to recognize Naval Air Station Whiting Field Friday 74th anniversary. Happy birthday, Whiting Field. Thank you.
Happy birthday. Commissioner Lynch.
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Staff, Tony, good morning.
No changes. Good morning.
No additions.
All right, good stuff. Did want to say, I see that we have plenty of our friends here from Milton, and good to see some of our councilmen and councilwomen here with us today, and friends from the city of Milton. Thanks for being with us this morning. We will move approval of the agenda without objection. Hearing no objection, today's agenda is approved. We'll start off this morning with a presentation, a check presentation. And Randy is here with us this morning. Pastor Thurman will come back up with Ferris Hill Baptist Church and take it away.
Hi, we were really excited to have our second annual Bake Off and Bake Sale this year, and Tom Thurman and his lovely wife were judges at that event. We had about 20 employees that participated in it. The first place went to Sheila Fitzgerald for her Ooey Gooey bars. Emily Spencer got second with her fudge pie. Deb Grindy in our office got third with the apple dapple cake, and then Julie got an honorable mention with her key lime pie. But more importantly, at that event, we raised $575 for the cold weather shelter, which does an incredible service to our county. And I'll let Tom Thurman tell you about that.
Good morning again. Actually, my title is I'm the coordinator of cold weather shelter, so I have been accused of being a pastor before, but not quite, so sorry about that. I was asked to give a brief summary of the where we are with our cold weather shelter, what we're doing, what we desire to do, and to do so, I do need to give you a little bit of information regarding our church. We're currently upgrading our facility to better serve our congregation and our community. We do have an aged facility. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. We do have an aged facility, and we're doing upgrades to better serve our community and our congregation. And the upgrades that we currently have are scheduled to be in 2 phases. Phase 1 is upgrade of electrical capacity, increased bathroom capacity for sanctuary portion of the facility, and replacement of exterior doors to bring into compliance with outswinging panic hardware. These, I'm sure, are things that other churches and other facilities are probably interested in doing also. Estimated cost for Phase 1 is $45,000. The funds that have been given are $36,000, and the remaining need is $9,000. And I'm just sharing with you where we are with our church. Phase 2, which will directly impact our cold weather shelter, which must be completed after Phase 1, is to increase bathroom capacity for the remaining portion of our facility. Add laundry facilities, shower facilities, and these additions will provide laundry and shower access year-round to the guests that we serve, including our cold weather shelter guests. Phase 1 electrical upgrade must be completed before we can begin the Phase 2, which is needed for our cold weather shelter. Estimated cost is $50,000. Funds given have been $17,000, and remaining need is $33,000. All that said, I wanted to share that with you because Fairfield Baptist Church is a debt-free church. We have no debt. God has provided us with the needs that we've had, and we want to honor God by using what He's provided, and we will move forward according to His timelines. So our choice is that we don't incur debt. So as I said, Phase 1 is actually initiated already, and when that's completed, we will be able to go into Phase 2. So Tom Turman's timelines and preferences are that we would have already had showers and laundry facilities, but we're not there yet. And when the funds are available, then we'll be able to proceed. And I do want to say thank you very much to the county and the EOC, the employees and stuff that have done the fundraisers. It's been a pleasure working with them. I do tell you that it's hot, it's July, but in 3 months, our cold weather shelter is going to be active, and there will be needs that will be served. I will tell you that personally, I hit the EOC quite a bit with needs for advertising of when we're open, the schedule and stuff, and Brandy and Sarah and the others have always been quickly to respond, getting the word out to the media and such, so that's been a great help, including coordination with law enforcement, city police, sheriffs, county sheriffs and such have been tremendous. When those occasional needs come up, even if it's in the middle of the night, we get the call if we're open, where we're there to serve. So none of this could happen without coordination of all of those agencies. So thank you very much. And also I did want to share with you that all the funds that have been collected for cold weather shelter have been designated for that. They are not being used for Phase 1. So that's why we do have a good portion of Phase 2 that's already been provided. So that may be more than you asked for, but I did need to give a little bit of history to explain our situation, and if there's any question, I'd be glad to share it with you guys.
First of all, I apologize. I had in my notes that it was
That's
Turman,
fine.
not Thurman, and I did mean to upgrade
It
to
is
pastor
Turman.
so
It is
quickly.
Turman.
It is Turman?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I guess I got that
No,
right.
that's fine. That's fine. I just didn't want to take credit for something that
Right. I did want to say that really appreciate what you have, the service that you have provided, and especially, we do have some events with some extreme weather, and there are folks out there, as unfortunate as it is, that you are the last resort for them.
Yeah.
And just really appreciate the fact that you step up and provide that service and address that need.
Thank you.
And we have.
And I do want to share with you briefly also that when I stand here, or previously when Brian Nall would stand here, a fully staffed season for cold weather shelter involves at least 50 people plus the facility. So it's not me, it's us, and I thank you.
Everybody that knows this board knows that we love big checks. Big checks are awesome. So we have a big check for you this morning. Thank you to our Santa Rosa County staff. Julie, key lime pie, if I'd have been there to judge this year, you would have moved up the rankings. But thanks to everybody, and congratulations for providing those treats, and is for a great cause. If you would come up and we'll get your picture made real quick. Councilman Snow.
Tom, can you hold up for just a second? Jeff Snow, Milton City Council. I'd just like to appreciate the board for doing what they just did with Tom. I've been there and visited the cold weather shelter in action, and I'd just like to tell you from firsthand account, they're going way above and beyond, and anything the county and the city can do to help in their facility, which provides a great service for the county and the city, that we both need to always step up and do, and I appreciate y'all doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the Economic Development Committee, first committee of the day. Item number 1, special event application for the 23rd Annual Christmas in the Park. Application was reviewed by staff. We've had an opportunity to take a look at that. Pretty straightforward. It's been going on for a long time. And if there are no questions or comments from members of the board, I'll move approval of this special event application without objection. Hearing no objection, that is approved. Item number 2, Gulf Cable promissory note. Great success story here. This is a great job by our economic development team with Shannon and Tina and everyone there. You know, the investment that the capital investment that they promised in construction, they've delivered. The jobs they've delivered, and this is a great success story, and we're so glad and grateful to have Gulf Cable and as part of our community. And if nobody has any questions or concerns about this item, then I will recommend cancellation of the promissory note as set forth in the agenda item. Do so without objection. Hearing no objection, that item is moved. And now we move on to the Administrative Committee. Item number 1 is the Estuary Program Proposal Update. And we have Erica with us this morning. If anyone has any questions, I'll open it up for board discussion at this time. We had some discussion about this item on Monday. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Commissioner Parker?
Just want to say thank you to Erica for following up. I believe she sent an email to all of us. Very detailed explanation. I appreciate it. I feel comfortable with moving this forward, Mr. Chairman.
As do I. Eric, I would have a couple of questions that I'd like to get on the record if I could. I'm sure these are probably obvious to most folks, but just wanted to ask if this grant, or if we are not awarded, we're not selected as the estuary program that would receive this grant funding, this new bureaucracy that would need to be stood up that's described here, that would no longer need to apply, correct?
That is correct. However, if an opportunity in the future does arise through NERDA or through other funding to stand up estuary programs for the full panhandle, we would already have the legwork done in terms of, you know, the concept for the structure and so forth.
Okay. Santa Rosa County is not committed to any ongoing funding through what we're doing today, correct?
It is my understanding that what you're doing today is not committing you to any long-term funding. However, as you're aware, I believe last month, the board did approve a letter of future financial support to sustain the estuary program if it is funded, but the level of financial support would be determined by the board at that time. I will point out, though, that in the memo provided to you from the West Florida Regional Planning Council, there is a statement in that memo that references the current BART contributions. I don't believe that's a part of the actual approval today.
Correct. I just want to make sure that we're clear that Santa Rosa County is not, there is no fiscal impact currently for the decision that we're going to make today.
That is correct.
Okay, because I would not feel comfortable supporting something, it's the old Nancy Pelosi thing, you know, we'll approve it and then we'll read it. I don't want to approve it and then find out what the price tag is later. So those are the only questions I had.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time I would move approval of the proposal. Is there a action item that is required for this, Tony? Is it just to allow, or the approval would be to allow Escambia County to
Yes, as
be the
written.
applicant?
The action will be as written. The board is concurring with the BOCC committee at next July 19th meeting as well, kind of setting the final application in place.
Okay, so approving that Escambia County would be the applicant or act as the applicant. I'd move approval of this item without objection. Hearing no objection, the item is moved. Item number 2 of the admin committee is judicial site submittals. And we had some conversation about this on Monday. Turn it over now to any board comments or questions. Okay. Vice Chairman Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We owe it to our staff to give them some direction today and kind of narrow this thing down. And I know there's been contact on several occasions here. I don't know if staff's had an opportunity to get any information back from Gildry Land Development, the Moores, Avalon at the Moores, but I just wanted to express again that I have no interest in somebody coming in here when Santa Rosa County has a good credit rating. We can borrow the money and build this and knock this project out in, let's call it 5 to 7 years, or 7 to 10 years, keeping a minimal amount of interest on our backs and get this thing behind us with an average construction cost that we've all discussed. So if to keep that in motion, I'd really have to hear what their terms would be. But I would think anybody that's willing to invest, let's call it $35 million in a piece of property and a building, which I think that's conservative, is going to want a significant return on their investment to lease it back to us. That's just business. They're not going to build something, spend that kind of money and not expect a substantial return on their investment over a 20, 30, 35-year period of time. So personally, we can't discuss these things, so I want to put it out there how I feel. I would have no interest whatsoever in looking at that. The only thing that would keep me or perk my interest in that type of development would be if there was a clause in there where it was absolutely zero penalty for early payment. And then if they wanted to build it and let us knock that thing out in 10 years, and they take what profit they could get from that, then, I'd be willing to listen, but I seriously doubt that somebody's going to invest that kind of money and not see a significant return. So that's where I'm at with that one. The county-owned partial, I've personally know Mr. Blue. His family and my wife's family grew up together, are neighbors. I had a conversation with him this morning. He indicated that he thought it should go on Avalon and that he had absolutely no interest whatsoever in selling his piece of property. And that's, you just have, I don't have that on record, but that's a discussion I had with him not more than 35, 40 minutes ago. The county, the JDL property, to me, looks to be our best solution to this. It gives us room to grow in the future. To me, it's a good business decision for this board with access off of Muleat Road and Avalon Boulevard. And staff is working on, but has yet to determine exactly who owns or where the piece of property that I pointed out the other day would fall in ownership or accessibility to the county if we did purchase this property. But it would be something that during a due diligence time period, we could discover, and if we discovered that that property could be purchased for tax lien or in fact was currently somehow under the ownership of Santa Rosa County, it gives us a beautiful place for a entrance for the sheriff's office or our judiciary to keep them isolated from the rest of the public. So if I had to vote a yes or no today or up or down today, my vote would be for the JDL property and willing to listen to what we have from the rest of the board and from the public. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Cole, for your comments. We have a member of the public here, Councilman Snow, that would like to address the board, so please go right ahead.
Thank you. For the record, Jeff Snow, Milton City Council. I'm here on behalf of the City of Milton, the mayor, and the entire City Council. I would like to thank y'all for addressing the courthouse issue that has been weighing on our community for an extremely long time. So I commend y'all for addressing this, and I think y'all are going to get there. I would like to state that all of our Milton City Council members, Mayor, have unanimously voted to recommend that you use and take a look at the Pine Forest Highway 90 Avalon site as your choice for the next Santa Rosa County Courthouse. Some of the reasons we consider this the best location for the citizens of Santa Rosa County: there are 2 4-lane highways servicing the immediate area with Highway 90 and Avalon Boulevard, which will give 2 major arteries for arriving and departing the area during peak hours, which will in turn help with congestion better than any other location that is being considered. It also is a centralized location for all of the citizens of Santa Rosa County and easily accessible from the south end of the county and the north end of the county. It includes high grounds and apparently no wetlands. It is also located by the county emergency management and other county services. The county also owns a great deal of the property and only have to purchase a limited amount of private citizens' property with very little impact. This site of the 3 is the only one that can be considered in the current county seat, and we feel it is vitally important that the courthouse remains in the current county seat. There is plenty of land surrounding this location that the county owns and could easily be developed and used for the needs of the courthouse. The centralization location will help more than one area prosper with economic growth, including Avalon and the Highway 90 areas, which will help Milton, Pace, and the Avalon area with economic growth. I thank you for your time, efforts in this matter. I'd also like to add, Mr. Cole, that we talked to Mr. Ballou, I'm sorry. I know he wasn't all for selling all of his property, but the back section that he said he would really have no use for, he would consider. Now, I know he was considering keeping the house and his barn that's there, but I think the other parcel with the other parcels is pretty substantial for the county to really take another look at, and see what can be done there. And I appreciate your time. Is there any questions for me? Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Jack Sanborn, 6484 Old Baghdad Highway, Milton, Florida. Good morning. Just wanted to take this opportunity to encourage you to look heavily at the location that Mr. Snow just talked about. A couple other major points I think about it is that the land that is presently behind the county auditorium would make excellent parking. It's old landfill, it doesn't have much other use. The roads and bridges are probably your one department that is the most mobile and easily moved, so that area could be used if you weren't able to purchase anything else behind the Pine Forest location. The other advantage it has is it'd be right across from the school board offices, so you'd be more central with other government offices. And the last thing I'd like to mention, the new county courthouse is just down the road. And the building that you build, hopefully with your names on it, would be a showplace and would look much better facing Highway 90 and close to the new Chamber of Commerce building, which is also going to be a showplace. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. As I've said before, as far as whose name would be on it, I think it should say provided by Santa Rosa County taxpayers. But if we're getting to the decision of whose name is going to go on the building, a lot of good things have happened to get us to that point, for sure. Commissioner Parker,
Thank you,
you're
Mr.
recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For a point of clarification, I would ask our attorney, Roy Andrews, to explain to the board and the audience what Florida statute governs if we were to put a courthouse outside of, I believe even this spot, outside of the current city limits, our statutory authority to be able to still keep that as what's considered the county seat for clarification?
Well, yeah, by a vote of this commission, the county seat can be expanded to essentially any area within the county. The county seat, by a vote of this board, can be expanded to essentially any area within the county.
Thank you, Mr. Anders.
Jeff Snow, Milton City Council. I've heard alternate things that, from our staff that we cannot spot annex. Have you heard that, or are you aware of the legalities of that?
Absolutely, and we're not talking about annexing area into the county or into the city. We're talking about expanding the county seat with a statutory determination and can be done by a vote of this council. I don't have the cite to the specific statute, but I've read it, and I'll be happy to furnish it to you.
I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we've had that conversation quite a few times, that it had to stay in the city, county seat, and we've been able to work around that. I just want the city council to know, the city of Milton to know, because basically, you know, we work hand in hand. City of Milton's in District 2. I've always said that I'm trumped by the city council and the mayor. I work at their wishes. We take a larger thing on. But it was mentioned, the Chamber of Commerce has chose to move out to Avalon Boulevard for exposure, so we'll be just as close at Avalon location as we would be for that. We've got to move up to the century we're in. The phone companies aren't in downtown Milton anymore because there's no phones or cell phones now. There's no need for that. We're back to trying to piecemeal property together when we can work with a clean slate. I've worked diligently with the city. I mean, I don't want the city to think, well, what's with Bob Cole? He's District 2. We're supposed to be working with him. Why isn't he on our side? We worked together on the boardwalk. I've worked diligently with Russell Harbor Landing with the city. We've worked together. We worked together on Park Avenue, that paving. I'm currently looking at paving, some paving working in conjunction with the city. When the former mayor suggested that if we build the Marquee Basin Bridge, if I would reach out to the DOT and have that bridge pre-conduited for wiring, that the city would step up to the plate and buy the lights to go on that bridge. That's not occurred because of change of organization, but you know, I reached out to DOT. That bridge is currently conduited for that wiring, for that street lighting at one day. And I'm willing to work in the future with what we do with the courthouse in the future, what we do with the Whittle building, what we do with perhaps Fisher Hamilton and the other buildings. I'm certainly willing to work. But this is not, just like it's a Santa Rosa Chamber of Commerce and they've chose to move out of the city, this is not the Milton Courthouse. This is the Santa Rosa County Courthouse. And as a commissioner, I've got to make, to me, the best decision I can for the long-term future of the citizens of Santa Rosa County. And putting this in that location, piecemealing property together when we have the ability to buy a clean, fresh slate and start clean and fresh. And a lot of things you pointed out, high and dry, the frontage on a major highway, closeness to the Chamber of Commerce, they fall in course with both pieces of property. So I don't want the city council, I think we're moving forward with the city council. We've got an outstanding city council there, a new mayor, a new vision for downtown Milton. I just, as a board member, I have to make what, in my heart, I feel like is the best decision for the long-term basis of the citizens of Santa Rosa County, the county in general, the location, what people will support on a sales tax. So I just want the city council to know that, you know, even if we differ on this, we're not at war with each other. We need to continue moving our city and our county forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Cole. Again, Councilman Snow.
Commissioner Cole, I appreciate your comments, and we have worked together and we will continue to work together no matter which way this goes. I respectfully disagree with your choice based on, to me, Mulette is not a main artery that's going to lead you or help the traffic in a great deal as far as you'll have everyone coming in and out just to Avalon. I think the spot that we have approved through the city that we think is best for everyone is up to the times. It will help more than just one area, which would be Avalon, to grow. It would help Pace, Avalon, and Milton to grow back and for economic growth there. When you speak of piecemealing properties, that is nothing new for the county or anything else, and I think that's a very limited situation over there, and especially when the county owns a great deal of the property there and wouldn't have to purchase that much. So I would ask you to take another look at it, and for the county staff, if directed by y'all, to do their due diligence and see if that's a viable option. I think it's the best one for the citizens. I think they would agree they would rather see mostly county property and limited private property used, especially when you would have two main arteries to let in and out for traffic during peak times is highly critical. That makes a huge difference between Avalon and Mulette Highway, is my opinion, and the city's opinion.
Vice Chairman Cole.
Just a question to Councilman Snow. You keep saying two major arteries. I'm at a loss there because
They would be able to go out to Avalon on the backside of, I'm sorry, Carroll's Drive. And then also the FDOT has already got it planned for that intersection for Kmart to be moved further east, and that would they would extend Pine Forest straight down. Okay. So you would have people letting out that way towards Milton, or they could go the other way to Pace, and then you also have an Avalon outlet, and that's not counting out Carroll Road the other direction and Old Baghdad Highway. So you have numerous arteries feeding that area, helping the congestion of traffic and easing it, I believe, in a lot quicker manner. And I think it's a great spot, and it can reflect on everyone, and just instead of one area, it can reflect on, as you said, it's for the county, it's a county courthouse. I think it reflects on Milton, Pace, and the Avalon area to grow. You affect more areas with that location than you do with the Avalon parcel, the JDL property that's further south.
Well, and
Thank you.
As you said, we respectfully disagree, because when you start wiggling your way through the backside on the Carroll and using the backside of Pine Forest, and you wanted to rule out Mulette Road, well, Mulette is a direct connection to Sterling Fibers or Sterling Way, then Bell Lane, and so, you know, it's, again, we respectfully disagree.
Right, and I see what you're saying there, but I don't really know too many people that live down at the end of Mulette and Sterling compared to the Pace and Milton that probably work at the county courthouse. I think you would affect more there. Thank you very much.
Councilman Snow,
Thank you.
excuse me. The statute to which I referred was Florida Statute 138.12, commissioners may expand county seat. There's a process that requires 2 public hearings and notification in the newspaper, but it's a vote of this council or this commission that would do that.
And I do appreciate that option still being on the table, and if we have to go that direction or y'all choose to, I do appreciate that. That is one of the reasons that I listed, but I also think it is the best location for the courthouse, and I think it'll shine a better light on this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lynchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we've kind of gotten far afield from what the discussion was to be today. Our task after Monday was not to weigh the relative merits of these 3 sites, but our task after Monday was not to weigh the relative merits of these 3 sites. We had proposed that staff would provide a rough cost analysis of these sites, and then some type of analysis of the build-to-suit or lease option. I still think we should pursue that. The cost of capital is such now that on many large building projects, you're seeing a third party come in and actually own the property and then lease it back to the end user, whether it's government or commercial. The new Publix, the Sacred Heart, both of those are multi-million-dollar projects, and the owner of that project, of that business, deemed it financially feasible and advantageous to have a third party own the fee and then lease the property back. So with the cost of capital right now still being at historic lows, I think we need to at least investigate that option. And again, our task was not to choose between the three today. It was simply to move forward with the cost analysis by staff. Staff can bring that to us whenever they're prepared, and we can make a decision. This is not something we need to rush through, the site selection and honing in on one particular piece of property. It may be that Pine Forest is not feasible for whatever reason. Maybe a reason nobody has even thought about yet. Same thing with the property on Avalon or out at the Moors. So I think in the interest of making a prudent and well-informed decision, we need to move forward with what is in the agenda.
And I agree. Before I go to Mr. Sanborn, I agree with you wholeheartedly that it doesn't hurt to get more information to make sure that when we select a location this time, that maybe we have more consensus and that we have thoroughly vetted it and that we're prepared to move forward with confidence in the location that we've selected. And so I agree. A good discussion this morning, but let's make sure we stay in our lane. Go ahead, Jack.
And I wanted to just remind everybody about the cost savings that might occur with the Pine Forest location. It's something that's been brought up by the infrastructure that's already in place there. And then I know that'll be covered in your cost studies.
Thank you. Commissioner Salter.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Lynchard. Our task today is to recommend staff provide cost analysis of the three sites. Once we have that information, we can make a better informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. I just make a few comments. First off, I did have the opportunity Monday, actually rode over there with Councilman Snow to talk with Mr. Blue. And at the time, obviously, there was definitely no eagerness to sell. He did, by the end of the conversation, say that he would consider an offer on a portion of the property. I just want to state a few notes, because sometimes, myself included, we jump to conclusions without, just like Commissioner Lynchard said, we don't have all the facts. And when we talk about the county owning the majority of the property, I believe the parcel the county owns is 6 acres. So if we bought, say, 4 acres minimum and we had 10 acres, I mean, we could say that the county owns 60%, but if it's determined through feasibility of the site location that we need more than 10 acres, that was a minimum, and we get up to 12 acres, well, now it's 50%, or what if 15 acres? So I think to portray it as the county owns the majority of the land needed is not necessarily accurate. You know, I've went by and I've looked at the property several times. One concern that I do have initially, and I guess this will be revealed, is the topography of that land is such that I feel that there's a real possibility that the site cost, the site preparation cost that we would have to deal with due to the topography of the Pine Forest location would possibly exceed any savings that we were to see over the initial purchase price of the Avalon property. You know, also, I could support from conversations I've had with several commercial brokers this week, as well as staff and a few folks that even work in site work doing these large projects like this, just like Commissioner Lynchard would, you know, mention. I mean, the Dick's Sporting Goods is a perfect example. They're building it and then leasing it. But one thing, you know, we got to look at is if we're directing staff to check a cost feasibility, I think we need to put some very clear parameters as far as, are we checking with them to only buy a portion of Mr. Blue's property, or to buy the property there directly to the east, or then we've got 2 houses there behind? Because the realistic thing we're looking at, and even Mr. Blue told us while we were there that, of course, he thought the area was across the road at the EOC had some flooding issues, and he did, I will definitely say, said the same thing to me and Councilman Snow that he told Commissioner Cole, was that he thought Avalon was the best location. But depending on which parcels we buy can greatly affect the cost, not of just the land, but the site preparation, how we're going to have to deal with stormwater management. You know, if we have the property to the east, which is lower, then of course we could use that area. But what if that person doesn't want it? Or what if, you know, we get a contract on this front corner, and then maybe the back corner, and then the next guy says, and I'll go back to the city of Milton and right about the time you were campaigning, where you have a piece of property and it's instrumental in a project. So the former city council, before you took seat, was willing to pay far above the appraised value, and you see the criticism that took. I definitely have come to the realization, you know, and through this job and many things, even this discussion, you know, you could go to the Facebook chatter this morning, and there's a lot of derogatory comments just about the fact of looking at places beyond downtown. There's absolutely no decision, I don't think, that this board will make or ever make. I guarantee you could find somebody that would be upset that we gave money to Ferris Hill Church. There's no decision that we make, as the chairman stated in a recent rezoning meeting. When they get here, they're not easy decisions. All the easy things are passed. And I will say that after looking at the property, talking with people, that there's no new idea. These are things that have obviously been vetted for a long time, but also in the sake of the courageous step to move forward. We could continue to belay this thing for a long time. I know Commissioner Salter has already spoken today. At the moment, I do feel that the Avalon property, the JDL property, would have some definite pluses over the property there on Pine Forest. There's some questions that, of course, if we were to enter into a contract or during this research, the due diligence, such as what requirements would DOT make us do, if any? You know, would we have to put in a turn lane or red light, or what those costs would be? To speak to the Mulat Road, we've got plenty of right-of-way there, as well as Cyanamid and Bell Lane. I expect with the large amount of residential development that'll be coming to the tune of hundreds and hundreds of homes that we've already seen on the horizon that will be coming, that those roads will be looked at in the future. At the moment, I think unless Commissioner Salter was to feel differently, it would do no good to say, maybe let's make an offer with a diligence period to move forward with the JDL property. But I do think if we're going to move forward with the motion that was discussed about having staff look at it, I think it's prudent to note the lease build or lease buyback option. I believe we would have that option on any piece of property. It would just maybe be putting that out to the companies. I mean, there's obviously more than one company that would be interested. So I think examining that is honestly irregardless of what location we pick. That option will be available for us to put out to major developers throughout the Southeast that come in and do that stuff regularly. But if we're going to ask staff to do cost analysis, I think it's only prudent that we give them some clear parameters. Which property owners are they going to contact? What's a time frame? Because honestly, like I said, there's no decision that everybody in this auditorium is going to agree with. But I'm trying to look long-term as well. And just like Mr. Sanborn stated, the Chamber of Commerce, and when they went through a long vetting period, stated, hey, Avalon would be a good corridor. We have people coming in, they looked at it. regardless of if the chamber was going on Avalon or not, though, doesn't say this. It's just after looking at the properties, I do feel, depending on, some of the maybe unforeseen costs at the moment, that property probably would be better. I've gotten several complaints since I took office from people on Carroll Road about the speeding and volume of traffic. DOT uses that road. They say it's in very ill repair. There's really no chance of ever expanding it, as well as other traffic issues that we've been made aware of through Public Works, such as, down the road there by Sonic. So I guess my question would be, just back to Commissioner Salter, would you feel comfortable with selecting a site and moving forward, or would you prefer to put parameters on staff I don't want this to linger out, because this could easily turn into 6 more months of study, and we have done an injustice to our citizens by not standing up and making a decision. So I guess that would be a question I would have for Commissioner Salter, respectfully.
Commissioner Salter, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I've been real clear from day one. My choice will be driven by infrastructure and the demographics of the county. On Monday, I said that JDL location was my choice. I'll continue to wait and let someone disprove that to me. But I will agree that we need to put a time frame on the analysis so we can move forward. But I do like the Avalon site.
Okay, given those comments, since Commissioner Parker and yourself seem to be circling around a time frame for due diligence, do you have a recommendation? Or do either one of you gentlemen have a recommendation on how long that due diligence period should be for, I'm assuming we're talking about the cost analysis that we're doing now. What do you think is acceptable? Commissioner Parker, you want to throw something out there?
I will. I'll make a motion. It may not move forward, and then we'll address that.
Well, before you do, just
Okay.
so, I was just specifically speaking to the length of time for due diligence. I think we've got a few things that we need to maybe
Right.
get out there before we move forward to a motion. Certainly, you're entitled to do that, Commissioner Parker, but I'm just trying to get to where the motion we ultimately craft includes the will of the entire board.
Mr. Chairman, could I mention before Commissioner Parker weighs in, I believe Commissioner Cole's going to be gone for a couple of meetings, so staff suggestion would be the last meeting in August.
Okay, so last meeting in August to bring back the cost analysis of the 3 sites as part of the agenda today, okay? Would that be acceptable to you, Commissioner Parker?
It would. I just think,
Kind of think we need to be at full strength, don't you?
for me to support that, and I've said since day one, right here from this seat, that I would love for this to be a unanimous decision. I don't know if we'll ever get to that, but I know we'll have a long road to hoe to build this thing before we select the site. But again, I think, as Commissioner Cole said, it would be an injustice to staff to leave it as such an open-ended for, hey, give me a cost analysis. We've got to determine how many of these property owners are we looking to buy from.
I think we can narrow that down in our conversation today. You bring up some good points. Let's do that right now. If there's some additional things that you want to see in the cost analysis, I think we can give them that direction this morning.
I'm willing to make a motion concerning the JDL property, and that may be unfortunate that we wouldn't have a unanimous vote today. I know we didn't have a unanimous vote when we tried downtown, and it's very rare when we get into these very contentious decisions. But like I said, I've tried to move forward with things that my whole heart said, there's got to be a plus, 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 even such as building a playground in the neighborhood, and found that there are people that wouldn't support that. So I don't think, again, as I say, any site, we will definitely have folks that support it or not. I would want to hear input from Commissioner Lynchard as far as the suggestion of the parameters of the diligence. I guess if we're going to go that, because I think we're getting very complex. We're having to give a lot of leeway to our attorney or the folks to, even if we go out here to the property owner and he says, well, yeah, I'll I'll sell for $150,000. If we don't give them authority to bind that under contract, by the time it comes back to the board at the end of August, they may decide they want $250,000. And that's why I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around how, in this case with a governmental body, with our attorney or no person having the power to go out here and put binders on properties and tie it up, how do we even know that that's an accurate cost assessment?
Welcome to local government, my friend.
So with that, I would be willing to make a motion. I don't know if it would pass, but for the
We'll have the opportunity
complexities
for
I've
public
looked
comment.
at, I just think, again, we can try to belay things so that, I guess maybe we feel like it makes a decision easier down the road, but again, I don't know that that's necessary.
We've got some folks that are here for public comment, but Commissioner Parker, are you putting forward a motion?
I will. I'll wait till we make sure we give every person a chance to speak, and then I'm prepared to make a motion because, I've said again, and I'll say it, I said when I ran, no matter what today happens or what happens in 2 months, there'll be people that agree and don't agree, but ultimately I feel that we owe it to the citizens of this county to move projects forward and to get projects done. And that's what I'm prepared to do, even though that obviously will take scrutiny no matter what. So I will definitely wait to public comment, but at the time, I do feel like I'll be crafting a motion.
Okay. Councilman Snow, you've had plenty of opportunities to address the board on this matter. We want to remind you, as Commissioner Lynchard has said and other members of the board have said, that today is not the day to vet every single property. I think this city has voted unanimously on what property they're supporting. The board has a clear understanding of that, and we have other folks that wish to comment. So if you would, go ahead, but at this point...
I'll keep it quick.
Thank you.
I appreciate Mr. Parker wanting to move forward as quick as possible, but the word due diligence, I think, is very necessary in this situation. I think all spots need to be, in another month after 30 years of waiting by the citizens is not too much to ask. County administrator said he could have it, most of that done by August with a few parameters set by this board. I think they also should look at reconfiguring the county space right now. If some of the landowners don't want to, I think that's well within their ability to accomplish. I think when you look at the large scheme of things, the price of the property, even at the JDL or over here, in the grand scheme of things, is a very small percentage of the whole entire project. So I would say definitely do our due diligence and look at every avenue of each site. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
And I'm sure you've considered this, and that the city would be doing this anyway, but please bring forward recommendations, suggestions to staff related to any and all of these sites. As we're performing our due diligence on behalf of the county, it's incumbent upon you to do the same. So we fully expect and anticipate that folks will be advocating on behalf of the sites that they like, and they'll probably be telling us the reasons why we shouldn't be going with the ones they don't like. So the more information we have, the better opportunity we're going to have to make an informed policy decision.
And I will say one other thing. I do understand the position that all of you are in. I respect it. I'm in it myself at times. And I do enjoy working with each and every one of you, and we'll continue with doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please, name and address for the record, please. Glad you're here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Brad McLaughlin, 3163 Bay Street, Gulf Breeze, Florida. On behalf of JDL Properties here today. Not only do I represent the owners of this property, I have also a community of Santa Rosa County, graduated from Pace High School, and I've been fortunate enough to move back to the area. I want to kind of dial into the points of Monday's discussion that basically talked about price and some of the moving parts and concerns. First off, spoke with our owners, and we are willing to negotiate on the RFP numbers that we submitted. Two, we are, if there's budget or cost concerns, we are willing to the 3 to 4 acres potentially on the road frontage of Avalon had the cost be of concern and you guys did not want to be in the real estate market or be responsible for selling these items, we would not be opposed to retain some of this property, allowing you access off of Avalon Road as well. So I think that's some points to mention there, and I want to kind of stay true to the points of this discussion, but I think there's some things that are important about this property, and I've looked at this property not only from a business standpoint, but also a community standpoint, and this board needs to make the decision of what's right for the county. And if the county-owned property is that property, then that's what needs to be done. However, in looking at these three sites, and my professional opinion, of in which I've been fortunate enough in my career to build large commercial federal buildings, federal contractors, largest contractors in the country, as well as the last 6 to 8 years building high-rise roads and freeways. So looking at that perspective and the cost impacts of what the purchase price would be for this property compared to the infrastructure cost of the county-owned property, plus the site conditions of the lease property that we've been talking about, I find it hard to believe that the infrastructure and roads that what this property offers at the current time could be met. I think that it's going to cost the taxpayers more down the road, as you've mentioned before, to develop these properties. We all know the site conditions down on South Avalon. I would question how there could be a feasible cost study right now and them offer you a lease amount, not knowing the parameters of what you request, plus the site conditions that exist there. Two, I noticed in the RFP that it says they're in a contract to purchase the property. So there's some question there. As it pertains to the county-owned property, if the county feels it's in the best interest and it's the cheapest way to go and it allows growth, I think that's the two major points. It allows growth, expansion. There's no parcels that you have to take away from anybody here, and there's a room to grow. There's reasons why DOT, the county, everybody, that they're expanding these intersections, that they're adding 3 6-lane highways, is because it's congested. So, you know, that's what I have to offer, or what JDL has to offer. We think it's the best choice of the three alternatives. And here again, you know, regardless of which direction each of you guys vote, I think these are important points that we need to consider.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for submitting a proposal and stepping up to provide us one of the options, and for your comments today.
Okay.
We go to somebody. Yes, go right ahead. Name and address for the
Hi,
record.
my name is Cheryl Young, and I'm with Seville Square Realty, and we did respond. We were one of the 5 responses to the RFP for the judicial site, and I just wanted to renew the request and ask for you to reconsider the location of 6400 US Highway 90, which already has an FDOT turn lane in place, and there is proposed, which you're well aware and well versed in, improvements scheduled by FDOT for that intersection, the nearest intersection being Glover Lane and Highway 90. And that parcel, I just want to make sure the citizens of Santa Rosa County are aware that that parcel was submitted, and obviously whatever your decision is, support it and respect it. But that is a 5-acre approximate parcel with 6 acres fronting on Glover, approximately with an additional 25 behind it, with an ability to have up to 37 acres part or whole. So for future growth and expansion, and that is the actual 6400 US Highway 90 is not in the city limits, but all the parcels around it are in the city limits, and I just wanted to renew that request. That's it. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you for your comments. Okay. The due diligence portion, regardless of the site, I did want to get with Tony on that real quick. If we went with that last meeting in August, the Monday meeting is the 21st, and we would have the backup going out on, you'd be looking at finishing the backup on Wednesday, August 16th. Are you confident that that would give you enough time? When you start backing up from the actual Thursday, and then when the backup ends up going public, which I'm sure will be a backup that's read with great interest, I just wanted to double check with you and see if you feel that gives you enough time. I mean, I want it done expeditiously as well, but I also want it done right.
Well, certainly that is the inside date. If you ask me, my preference, I would probably bump it another meeting from that. What I was trying to give you was an inside date that the board was interested in. I knew Commissioner Cole would be out, and I mainly wanted to make a point that we could not, if we even tried, if we could get it done, if you wanted a full board here, the first meeting in August would be out.
Just a kind of a sidebar question as we start looking at important dates to make sure as this process moves forward, if it was the will of the board at some point in the future to pursue a local option sales tax again in the November 18 election, the deadline for putting that on the ballot, Roy, is that sometime in the May time period?
May of next year?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be timely.
Okay, so we're under some time constraints, if you will, if that's a direction that the board decided to pursue at some point in the future, but I certainly don't feel that we're needing to rush in any way or wanting to on this. Do you want to stick with that date, Tony, or would you want to go with the first set of meetings in September following the Labor Day holiday?
Well, certainly that'd be the most, I think we'd feel the most comfortable with that date, but I think we could probably accomplish, hopefully we'll be able to accomplish it by the end of August if we needed to try to do that. Obviously, when we come back with a report, if there are other items that need to be considered, then we'll address that.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, we'll stick with August. Fine, or Commissioner Parker, would you be fine with extending?
I'm definitely not saying that I'm fine with that yet, but I'd have some questions for Roy that give me, great concern with what we're talking about.
Could we just stick with the time right now? I'd like to nail that down, and then we'll go to additional items to include in the cost analysis. Can we do that? I just want to make sure we.
Well, I'm not even saying that I'm not, this is part of the, I don't know that I'm okay with setting the time for this without the questions, just to tell you the truth.
Well, we had due diligence as a question that we wanted to get answered. So I'm trying to figure out the way to do that. So I'll just put forward that the due diligence process, that we would have this brought back to the board, the cost analysis brought back to the board, the first set of meetings in September. Okay, and now go ahead, Commissioner Parker.
Roy, I'm sure you or Commissioner Lyncher could probably better answer this than my mind's wrapping around, but how in this cost analysis, due diligence period, I can understand how on the JDL site, but how on the site that we're talking about that the county owns 6 acres, do you hold an accurate cost analysis? How would you legally be able to contact the neighboring property owners and get a price, because that's a huge part. We're talking about, the cost analysis. How do you get a price from them and then legally have that as where you feel comfortable that would make it not fluctuate or change? We avoid what happened in downtown Milton of, hey, these two on this side are selling, one in the middle says I want $250,000. How do you avoid that?
The process I think I would follow if you were wanting to explore the Pine Forest site would be to discuss with each of the possible sellers what their willingness to sell would be and what their price would be, and to obtain an appraisal, because the board is going to have to have an appraisal before they do any purchase, and that would give a parameter that we could work from.
I'm just saying.
But I'm not going to be able to, or the board's not going to be able to enter into a binding agreement that would force those folks to sell at a specific price, if that's your question.
I guess that's what I'm wondering, is how we get an accurate cost assessment there again, because you may get Mr. Blue holds out or somebody else holds out, and then that's why I'm wondering, is just a serious question, how you can even bring us an actual cost analysis, because until we know the price of the property and until we know which parcels we're getting, that's going to be huge as far as our site prep cost.
Commissioner Lyncher?
We could bring you the appraised values of each of those properties and determine whether or not there's a willing seller. That's all we could do. We couldn't contract with them without board approval.
So it would just be a verbal from that person. We would, I guess, order appraisals, and then you would contact them and just have a verbal and hope that they would.
Well, we wouldn't have a binding agreement with them.
Right.
We hopefully would have something written down as opposed to a verbal, but it wouldn't be a binding contract.
And it's a cost estimate. I mean, it's not a guaranteed bottom line. We're asking staff to come up with an estimate. And they reach out to the property owners. It may be that no one is willing to sell, and so it's not feasible, and it comes back to us that first meeting in September, and it's no longer an option. Ideally, they would have a rough estimate of what each property owner would be willing to sell for, or, you know, whichever properties we need to acquire in order to utilize that existing property on Pine Forest. And then the board could evaluate that. And if the board chooses to move forward with the site at that point, then we would get the appraisals and enter into a binding contract with the property owners. But it's just going to be an estimate until that point.
And it certainly gives us more information than we have today. We continue to get more information that may make a site be viewed more favorably in the board's eyes, or it may ultimately eliminate a site. Vice Chairman Cole, and then back to Commissioner Parker, and then I'm hoping that we're moving toward a motion.
Mr. Chairman, again, we're giving staff an overbearing amount of things to do. To me, you know, just sitting here listening to this, we're what if this, what if that? I think Commissioner Parker raises some outstanding questions because, again, I'm going to call it piecemeal because that's what it is. My direction I'd like to see us go, and I don't want to steal Commissioner Parker's thunder, but I'm also willing to make a motion. We concentrate on JDL. We assign staff to that, negotiations, due diligence, and as a caveat to that, that we have staff investigate, as Commissioner said, the usage of a third party to build this and lease it back, because it can apply to all properties. And I think that's a good idea. But we all know the problems we have down on Avalon with wetlands. I mean, it took them 2 years maybe or longer just to build a bridge because of the conditions down there. I got phone call after phone call, worked with DOT, getting complaints as why that one 2-lane bridge wasn't completed. One thing I have heard time and time again since the last election is you guys need to make a choice on a piece of property. That's my choice. If somebody's going to put it in motion, I'm going to second it.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Lynch.
And I think that, Commissioner Cole, that's exactly what the agenda item would enable staff to do. With regard to JDL, their representative mentioned alternatives as far as the frontage on Highway 90. When staff's performing that cost analysis, they're going to reach out to these potential sellers, and that's a factor that can be brought to the table. You know, if you retain the front 200 feet, what does that do to the property? We're giving staff a month and a half, close to 2 months, to just get some of these basic questions answered. I'm not expecting to see an Excel spreadsheet with dirt costs and linear feet of pipe. Just a rough cost comparison as to these 3 sites. I don't see how we go anywhere other than that today. So I would move the agenda item as written, with a directive to staff that it be prepared and on the agenda at the first meeting in September.
I would second that.
I'm gonna object. That I think we're staying too broad, and personally, I've heard enough I feel like we need to narrow it down a little more.
Okay. Well, we are in discussion, so we can have.
I'll call the question.
What did you say?
We're calling the question. I feel like we will have a moment for discussion. Commissioner Lynchard, and at this point, I'd just like to offer my comments that I feel as though selecting a site right now, a site with $1 million price tag and many unknowns, I feel would be irresponsible on behalf of the board. This is just providing us with some additional information on sites that were brought forward. We had an RFP process. We asked folks to provide their proposals. They've done so. We have each of us identified sites and options that we would like to see further information brought forward, and to now just dismiss that and lock in on one site with so many unknowns, that's not something that I could support. And I don't feel that it would be responsible to do that at this time. And so I'm in support of Commissioner Lynchard's motion. I would like to see that the staff analysis include the loss of future tax revenue when we start talking about converting large commercial parcels with valuable highway frontage, and we're going to convert that from a commercial use to a government use. We are going to lose millions in revenue over the life of that project. And so I think that's something that should be considered with the cost analysis that we bring forward. And certainly site considerations, that's something that, you know, we're probably going to get to later. But those are my thoughts on the item. If there's any further discussion, now would be the time for the discussion portion. Commissioner Parker, you're recognized, and then Commissioner Salter.
Again, I have the utmost tremendous respect for fellow commissioners, and I've said it before that every day I have to sit up here, the more I respect you guys that have done it for years, because there's no easy decision. I don't think either of these sites are new. I don't think that they haven't been vetted. I mean, folks I've talked with have researched them extensively in the past. Again, this is something we've been doing with 20 years. It's not a hasty decision by any means. I mean, Lord, y'all voted on the downtown location 2 years ago. I mean, we've been looking at it, thinking about it. There's a lot of people that are rooted in a spot just for whatever reason. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be hasty to make a selection. It would be, I kind of was thinking about the verse of Joshua 1:9 today, and it's courageous because at some point you have to step up and make that decision. I would prefer, rather than what Commissioner Lynchard had offered, if it would be possible, as just part of the discussion, I guess, for maybe Roy could give me some guidance here. If we were to craft a motion to, on the JDL property, again, talking with some commercial brokers and looking at comps in the area, I thought, the price was a little high. I think $850,000 would be a lot more reasonable. Definitely shows some goodwill towards the county. We could have a 60-day or even a 75-day due diligence period because, of course, phase 1 and 2 environmentals would be required. That would give us time to explore with DOT what requirements would be there. And that would be due diligence. That is what that is for. I think it was the councilman or somebody that had come up, and it was funny, I had left that off in my notes this morning, but total capital outlay of this property, even at a lowest end number from what that I've heard talked about, would still be less than 3% for the purchase price. So to talk about that we're going to pick a spot that adjoins county property because we save a couple $100,000 when you're talking about quarters and halves of a percent goes back to what I've heard Commissioner Salter say many times before. Whether it's your personal business or it's a building such as this, you don't pick the location. The same reason nobody on this board's talked about the land that was offered to be donated, or even when I asked Monday if anybody wanted to put it in the I-10 industrial park. You don't pick the location based on a 0.5% of the total outlay cost. So I guess that, Roy, if you will indulge me for a moment, if the board today was to move forward with a motion, if Commissioner Lynchard's motion did fail, and we were to move forward with a motion to put an offer to them, which would give us, then we would know yes or no with a due diligence period, Could staff not perform a parallel period or inquiry to the property on Pine Forest at the same time, so that if something comes up or arises with the JDL property that shows it's negative, I don't know what would stop staff from making those preliminary inquiries to the Pine Forest Road property as well. But again, I think the best way to put it is how somebody had mentioned, I don't think you pick the spot because of a 0.5% or 1% of a total project. I mean, you don't pick where you're gonna live because the lot's $5,000 less on a $300,000 home than the neighborhood you wanna live in. I know there'll be criticism regardless, but I just feel that this spot's better. So those are my thoughts. That's my question to Roy, and then I guess Mr. Chairman will tell us how we're gonna move forward with it.
Roy, you're recognized.
Well, I think we have a motion and a second on the board. If that motion did not pass, and there was a motion that to make an offer, the board could certainly do that. And we would have to put the contingencies as discussed therein, so we could do it.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have a properly formatted motion. We have a second. Any additional suggestions that members of the board would like to get to staff as far as things that would be included in the cost analysis? They can certainly do that if this motion were to move forward. The motion is to approve the item as stated on the agenda and to have staff bring back those results of the cost analysis at the first set of meetings in September. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? The motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be prepared to craft a motion.
Commissioner Parker, you're recognized.
I would make a motion that we give authority to our attorney to make an offer of $850,000 to the JDL of Santa Rosa LLC for the 19 plus or minus acres that was proposed off of Avalon Boulevard, that we do so with a 75-day due diligence period, and that I would, as part of that motion, request that they have a 10-day window to give us a response.
We have Roy, you're recognized.
A 75-day due diligence period that we determine the suitability in our sole discretion.
We'll see if we get a second on the motion, and then we'll see if we want to add that
Second.
to language. We have a properly formatted motion and a second. We have a recommendation from the county attorney. Would you agree to add that language, include that language with your motion?
I would
Parker?
agree, and I would like to give the attorney the authority to draft the paperwork or however he deems fit, as well as the authority to move forward with the phase 1 and 2 environmental, check with DOT on the requirements, and any other, as you said, due diligence that we see fit, to include having Mr. Blaylock's department look at it.
We have a properly formatted motion. Does your second still stand, Vice Chairman Cole?
Absolutely.
Moving on to discussion, I would say that there is a fine line between courageous and reckless. And I could understand the reason for expediency, but this is a decision that
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
is incredibly surprising to me. But that's why there's 5 of us elected up here, you know? So we have a properly formatted motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Salter.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, after listening to all the reasons why we were considering 3 different sites, we've been trying to do this for 20 years. And it's my history, the longer you delay, the more negative it gets, and the more hostile the whole concept becomes. And I've always said, we shouldn't let the site get in the way of building a new courthouse. This JDL site 3 years ago, when we did the demographic study, actually came out number 2 on the site. And if I remember correctly, there were, I'm going to use Commissioner Lynch's name. He supported that site 3 years ago. I don't see where anything has changed to make this a very favorable site since that 3-year study. And that's why I'm supporting today. Let's go ahead and pick a site and move forward. And I don't think it's reckless because this has been studied for 3 years. So,
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, I tried to get the City of Milton downtown site approved and came up just short this last time. So you guys taking the ball and running with it this time, and I hope at the end of the day that we're successful and that it results in delivering a courthouse. We have a motion and we have a second.
Mr. Chairman.
Prepared to call the vote, Commissioner Parker. Usually when you're winning, you would let that go, but go right ahead. You're
Appreciate it.
recognized.
Just for the record, I want to echo what Commissioner Salter had stated. I have looked through the entire HOK study that the county did pay for, and that's goes back to just what I want to reiterate. This is not a new site or something that hasn't already been looked at. But thank you for the.
And
Thank
if
you,
I could,
Commissioner Lynchard.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I am not opposed to the JDL site. I have tried to approach this in a prudent manner and to afford this board every opportunity to review the parcels that were submitted, the parcels under consideration, to ensure that we get it right. If we move forward and purchase this property on Avalon without a funding source, and we close in 75 days, and we go out to referendum next year and are not successful, then we still have this property on Avalon. And we are stuck with a location forevermore. So that's my concern. We are moving at a pace that I think could lead to some problems down the road. Again, after Monday's meeting, we were not asked to weigh the relative merits of each of these 3 locations. And now we're being asked to make a decision that will have long-lasting ramifications for the county. So I just think we're moving too fast.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And without any evaluation, I'm not against the JDL site either. I just don't know enough about it to make an informed policy decision on one of the largest capital investments in this county's history based off of, we had a conversation on Monday, and now we come here on Thursday, and we're going to make a decision that would set us on a course of buying this property, and I know very little about it. I know very little of what the fiscal ramifications of this would be. I have no idea if there's public support for this whatsoever. And this board is going to have to live with this decision, and I just feel like there is no reason to put this forward and make this decision today. But we have a properly formatted motion, we have a second, and we have had discussion. I would ask Commissioner Parker if you would reconsider your motion.
I just want to make an address concerning what Commissioner Lynchard said, because I can assure you that is something that I've thought about. And if we purchase any property, and I think you'll agree with this, we're stuck with it, so to speak, I think was the term used. And we carry it to the citizens, which I think we've all said would be the best, most equitable way to pay for it through a half-cent sales tax. But no matter where we buy, if the citizens say no to that half-cent sales tax, then what I would expect and be prepared to do is move forward with, again, maybe a tough decision, just like we're going to have to make in another budget cycle if this homestead exemption passes, just like y'all had to do in 2008 when revenues were cut, tough decisions. But I don't plan to buy a piece of property and sit on it. You know, I wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Cole's comments that the citizens made it clear to me, and I think it's been clear for years, that they are ready for the board to make a decision. If this was a site that had not already been studied, I mean, I've got a binder on my desk from months ago with the HOK study, as Commissioner Salter stated, then I would say this is hasty. But this is also, we're giving ourselves a due diligence period to review it. But no matter what property we buy, just like the downtown site, in all fairness, you know, the citizens didn't pass it. So tough decisions will have to be made if that happens. But that's sort of my comment to that. Again, this is not something that has only been looked at since I've been on the board. And even when we talk about the considerable time, we put out an RFP, you know, so we've been talking about this already for a couple months. And I think, as Commissioner Salter stated, to belay this just for the sake of saying we're delaying it, I don't think is prudent, and I don't think is what we owe our citizens. And that's the reason, again, I've said before, and I know there'll be criticism to come, but there'll be criticism to come from no matter what location. So that's just my only statement to the fact that this is something that we've already identified, the Avalon Highway 90 corridor, from a study that other commissioners, and respectfully so, I've learned that, hey, you got to, and a lot of times have paid, I don't know the exact amount we paid HOK, but tens of thousands of dollars to study it, and they identified that corridor. So that's my response, and if the chairman's will, I'll be ready to move forward with it.
Okay. We haven't had any due diligence on the Moore site yet, but who knows what they were going to offer in the way of a proposal. We'll never know now. All those in favor, actually, would you please, for the record, restate your motion, Commissioner Parker, so we have a clear understanding of what we're voting on today, so the record will show, and when the public reads the newspaper tomorrow and finds out what decision was made today, they'll be able to watch the review, and we'll all know what was decided upon.
I will, and I'll just make a quick rebuttal to that. The company that made the proposal for the Moore site you mentioned, as the gentleman from JDL say, and I can say that I've talked with Brian DeMaria concerning that site, actually does not own the site. They have an option on the site, and you're getting into a whole nother level of at what point, you know, we've got to give them parameters for them to know what they're going to come back. This isn't going to be a, hey, we can make this decision. There's just a lot of unknowns there for them to even be able to have the ability and us to give them a concrete answer to move forward with that, for whether or not they're going to exercise that option to even purchase the property. So with that, the motion is that we allow Roy, our county attorney, to make an offer in the amount of $850,000, which the number they submitted, just for the record, was a little over $1,150,000. So this would be, you know, you're looking at approximately $250,000 less. I feel like that's very prudent. The offer would be for $850,000 with a 75-day due diligence period to be, as Roy stated, I guess I'll let him inject the proper language for the diligence as we see fit, or what he stated earlier,
In our sole discretion.
at our sole
Whether to
discretion.
make the purchase in our sole discretion.
And that if at the end of that 75-day due diligence period, we decided to move forward, that we would then have 30 days to close on the property after that. I believe that, did I cover everything, Roy, that would be necessary for that?
I think you had said you wanted a 10-day response period.
Thank you for reminding me. I would also like to caveat on that offer that you make, that we give them 10 days to respond to the offer. I'll do so without objection.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second the motion. The only thing I would possibly recommend, instead of including a fixed price for the location, change that to say not to exceed $850,000.
I believe that we had a properly formatted motion before. We had a second from Vice Chairman Cole. I was just asking for a restatement of the motion. So you're offering an amendment now? Would you
No, that's
please
fine.
clarify your amendment, Commissioner Salter?
I'm done.
No, so you're withdrawing your amendment? Okay.
second
We
will
have a
stand.
motion. Does your second still stand, Commissioner Cole?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then we will now call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, signify by raising your right hand. Let the record show that Commissioner Parker, Vice Chairman Cole, and Commissioner Salter voted in favor, and Commissioners Lynchard and Commissioner Williamson voted against. Motion carries. It's 10:33. We're going to take a break and come back at 10:45. Exciting board action, local government at work. Moving quickly to item number 3, amendment number 4 and number 6, dealing with the encroachment in the vicinity of NAS Whiting Field. There are no comments or questions. I would move approval of this item without objection. Hearing no objection, the item is moved. Number 4 is employee merit increase, and I will allow the opportunity for Commissioner Parker, since this was initiative of yours, to make the motion if you would so choose.
Thank you. I would make a motion without objection that we go ahead and approve the merit increases effective the pay period beginning July 31st.
And I noticed that the amount, the 157 amount, is not included, but there's no change from what was in the backup from Monday, correct, Tony?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we have a motion made without objection. Hearing no objection, that is approved. Item number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Items 5, 6, 7, and 8. Would move those without objection. Hearing no objection, items 5, 6, 7, and 8 are approved. Items 9, 10, and 11. Items 9, 10, and 11 moved without objection. Hearing no objection, items 9, 10, and 11 are moved. Item 12 related to Navarre Beach vendor request, and item 13, Gulf Environmental Benefit Fund project submittal. I would move approval of these items without objection.
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Cole, you're recognized.
Just real quickly on item 13, I've heard quite a few very positive comments to our action on that, so just wanted, sure everybody has, but I wanted to voice that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good project. Move approval of items 12 and 13 without objection. Hearing no objection, those items are moved. Item 14 is related to the meeting list. You see those dates before you. I'd move approval of these dates without objection. Hearing no objection, an item is moved. I have one question for the board before the August meeting dates are put forward. On August 10th, which is a Thursday, we have a regularly scheduled county commission meeting in the Tiger Point Community Center. That would normally be the day we would vote on items. Before that, our regularly scheduled Monday meeting on the 7th, I believe it is. We have some items that are going to be discussed that week that are specific to South County, and I know it is a inconvenience, but since we are doing most of our committee discussions at that Monday meeting, I wanted to see if there was any interest in the board to consider having both meetings that week in South County, to where as we're receiving these presentations and talking about drainage easements and Navarre Park renovations and any other number of things, that we would have both our Monday meeting and our Thursday meeting in South County to be more convenient to residents there. Is that, I would love to get feedback from the board on that, since we really don't have an opportunity to discuss that any other time. Commissioner Salter?
No objection, I support.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder, I'll still be out of town that week, so I'll remain neutral.
Okay. It's not something that I'm asking to add to the agenda today. It's not something I'm looking for action today. I just wanted to have that commentary to where staff would have that commentary on the record. And I know we still haven't made a decision on that, but just something to consider. I would prefer that. I think that we have a lot of conversations with projects that are going to be impactful down there, and
just for clarity, would you like, currently we have the consultants for both of those items, the drainage study and the Navarre Park project Genesis, to be there on the 10th. We have them scheduled for that. And just so that I'm clear, if we were to move them, you'd like for us to talk to them about moving to them moving their presentation to the 7th. Is that correct?
well, it all depends on if you were expecting the board to make any action related to those two items that week. I know with Navarre Park, I would not object to the Navarre Park renovation discussion happening on Monday the 7th. In case there was a board action related to funding source and moving that project forward. We will be receiving the master site plan So it is to that point in the project where we need to make a decision on phasing and funding and if we're going to move forward with that. So that would be fine. As far as the stormwater drainage maintenance easement, I wouldn't have an objection to having that remain on Thursday because I don't believe you were looking for any board action. That was more of a information-only item and to bring the board up to speed on that and allow public comment. Is that correct?
Well, of course, not knowing exactly where we might go with that, I mean, certainly we're looking for more direction than action, I would think, on either of those items. I guess I was just trying to understand the rationale to move it to Monday. I thought that's what maybe we were trying to get it to the Monday meeting as opposed to the Thursday for possible action on Thursday.
Right. My concern is that we would be having public comment on the day that we're taking action on the item and would prefer to have public comment on the day that the board is having their committee meeting on Monday so that if we're taking any subsequent action on Thursday, we can incorporate that feedback.
I guess my point back to that would be that if we're going to take public comment, if we're not going to have the presentation until Thursday, then that's when the public comment's going to take place, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right. So here again, I would prefer to have the presentation for Navarre Park be on Monday. And if you were looking for board action related to the stormwater drainage maintenance plan, then we could also look at moving that. I'm not anticipating taking any action on the maintenance plan. Yes, we may direct staff to take some steps after that, but certainly not a action in the same, it wouldn't be the same as the park project, if that makes any sense. So I would like to see the Navarre Park renovation master site plan proposal, that presentation brought forward on Monday the 7th, and I'll leave it up to your discretion on the easement, the drainage easement presentation. Is that fair? My preference, move both of them to Monday if you can. I'm trying to leave you some wiggle room either way.
Okay.
I'd love to see both of them on Monday if we're going to move the meeting down there, but
right.
If they say they can only make it on Thursday, I'm fine with that.
That was my point, that if we were going to meet down there Monday, we might as well try to move both of them to Monday, I think.
I'm fine with that. Okay. So thank you for that. Number 14, meeting list dates.
I'm sorry, we will need to check the availability. I don't know what might be scheduled on the 7th, but we'll just check all that and get back with you.
Yeah, that way we can have it for the next set of meetings. Okay, we'll move approval of item 14 without objection. Hearing no objection, that item is moved. Moving on to the engineer's report. Discuss these items on Monday. Item number 1, purchase of commercial water truck for central landfill. I would move approval of this item without objection. Hearing no objection, the item is moved. Item 2, lease agreement, Cougar Oil for the 1,000-gallon fuel tank at central landfill. Move approval of this item without objection. Hearing no objection, the item is moved. Item 3, for the lease John Deere 850K undercarriage overhaul. Move approval of this item without objection. Hearing no objection, the item is moved. Item 4, items 4, 5, and 6. Items 4, 5, and 6, I would move approval without objection. Hearing no objection, items 4, 5, and 6 are moved. Item 7 relates to the Public's 5 Points emergency drainage easement. Move approval of this item without objection. Hearing no objection, the item is moved. Items 8 and 9, move approval of these items without objection. Hearing no objection, those items are moved. Public Services Committee, Vice Chairman Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 3 items we have on public services were discussed on Monday, and there's no changes on them noted on today's agenda, so I'd move them without objection.
Mr. Chairman, I do need to, I'd sent the board something, I'm sorry I didn't mention at the beginning of the meeting, but I did, I sent you an email. We did get with the contractor on that change order on the housing project. I don't want to muck up anything, but we did talk through that. I did want to say that on Monday, and I did not think about that, what the contractor had done was this home, of course, many of these jobs, as I described, are difficult jobs. It's not just about completing the wiring. You're going to end up messing up the walls when you're trying to strip wire out and put new wire in. Sometimes you got to cut holes to be able to access the wire to do a change out where you don't have the walls bare. So that's what was trying to be accomplished. We did amend the change order. It is a little less, put some contingency in there, but it actually is a lesser amount than what was talked about on Monday.
Mr. Chairman, noting those changes, I'll still move for approval. I think our discussion Monday mainly helps set the stage that in the future, we're going to be a little more scrutinizing on these contracts. So, but not to hold this one up, I'd recommend moving it without objection.
Okay. Just a quick question. I read the email, and I thought we were still at the 6880 number, and you mentioned, did I miss something? It was less than that,
That number
Tony?
was eight something, about I'm sorry, over 8,000 Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the new information's in your backup.
Okay.
Everybody,
We have, yeah, thank you. I had that 6880 confused. I thought that was what we'd had already, so.
That's the
good
new
that it's
number.
lower.
okay.
Thank you, Tony. So items 1, 2, and 3, without objection, hearing no objection, those items are approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Public Works Committee, Commissioner Salter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 9 items. They were presented on Monday. A lot of road paving going on. Nothing has changed since Monday. So I would recommend approval of all 9 items without objection.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Furman, you're
I would like
recognized.
to get Commissioner Cole, if you will, to please give me some clarification on the road paving for District 2, because there was some discussion about maybe holding off on those roadways.
Yeah, and that would follow my comments the other day. I'd like to continue, go ahead and proceed, with the other districts, and let's talk of those a little more, and we'll bring them back at the second meetings in August.
All right.
That'd be all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Here again, nothing's changed, so move approval without objection.
Hearing no objection, those items are moved. And I know that I had a comment that, the only road we're resurfacing in District 4 is this one road, and just to get on the record, the fact that these are in addition to the normally scheduled and budgeted resurfacing projects in the districts. And this was money that, through the work of our staff, they were able to realize some savings as they were doing road resurfacing projects, and this is taking those savings and using them to get additional roads resurfaced in each of our districts. So this isn't doing less, this is finding a way to do more, and well done, Mr. Furman. So now moving on to Budget and Financial Management Committee, Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. I'd recommend approval of items number 1 through 11 as discussed Monday without objection.
Hearing no objection, those items are moved.
I recommend item number 12, approval of the check register without objection.
Hearing no objection, item 12 is moved.
That concludes the Budget and Financial Management Committee report.
Outstanding work, sir. County Administrator,
No other items.
County Attorney.
Nothing further.
All right, now we open it up for a public forum. Would any members of the public like to address the board? Thanks. Thanks for being here. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Jameson. I live at 6876 Kapok Drive here in Milton. I first want to say thank you to the Sheriff's Department. They're outstanding. I'm very pleased with emergency management on this last flooding issue, and I'm just kind of ashamed on how the county treated the officers, that they had to apologize to opening DeLisa Road, which is causing wave action, which is destroying our properties. We have 2 homes now at DeLisa and Kapok that are in foreclosure. We've had 8 families move in and out because of the flooding situation. It is still not been corrected. Kapok was replaced in 2014, after this last flood on the 4th of July. It is now separating again. It's being washed out and undermined. Not only are we flooding, but Sundial flooded this time. Our property value, like I said, it cost me in personal loan $11,800 in damages. I now have had to purchase flood insurance for $336 a year. This problem, Mother Nature's Mother Nature. It's going to put the rain down fine. We're not having this issue addressed. It's causing property damage. But my biggest concern, again, the police officers, bless their hearts, they tried to shut the road down. I don't know what it is about DeLisa Road that it has to stay open when it's flooded. The very first casualty at 5:30 in the morning was a tractor trailer. It drowned itself out. That's what caused the road to get closed. Police stopped it at Otis and DeLisa and Warren and DeLisa. It was peace and quiet, no wave action, no nothing. The road department came out and put road closed signs down. Thank you very much. People were not heeding that. They were moving the signs. The county sheriff actually stopped a county dump truck and said, "Dude, is there not a road closed sign there?" "Yes, sir, there is." Drove around it. We're having a really serious issue with this intersection. It's very deceiving. It gets very deep. And this is that's what caused me my AC unit. It got drowned out, washed out the board. I had to replace my fence. I've had to redo my yard. And then after this flooding, the black, sooty, nasty, oily crap was completely saturating my yard. I have a dog. She's got to walk through this to go to the toilet. Now I've got to spend money to get it power washed and cleaned up. It is costing me more money. And now we're losing residents on the 4 homes that are behind me because they're not wanting to deal with the flood. Like I said, we've had 8 families in those homes that have moved because of it. And now the one house that's had 3 individuals, homeowners, the last one said, I'm done with it. I'm foreclosing. And the very end house on KPOC is in foreclosure. And their fence is completely decrepit. And it's this constant driving through, allowing vehicles to drive through. I mean, I don't know what it is about the dump that this road has to stay open. There's more than one way to get to the landfill. And they did it for 3 hours. Why could they not until the water receded? It only took a day, thankfully, instead of a month and a half, but it only took a day for the water to recede. And I would appreciate that when the Public Works comes out and closes the road stays closed. Not truck drivers picking the barriers up and moving them and driving around. Screw it. Well, he made it through. I'm going to make it through. And it's causing property damage. And I can't believe that the county didn't back the police officers up. They're trying to help us protect our property. But now they're apologizing to me because they were told to open the road. That is just not right. The sheriff's at least looking out for our best interests and our property. But no, they had no backing whatsoever. He apologized. He goes, "I am so sorry. This is not the first time I've had to do this, but we have to open the road. This is not Interstate 10. This is not 98, and it's not 90. There are more than one way to go to the dump. And I would like this addressed and fixed." Like I said, we just had our road repaved, and it's pretty bad when water's coming out of the sewer instead of going in it. Sundial's been repaired. We've been repaired, but it's all breaking up again. So the issue has not been taken care of. Yes, there was an attempt. It's failed. We only had, 6 inches of rain that night. Now, the morning after Ivan, before you put those homes there, we didn't flood. Not a drop. Leaves everywhere, yes. Flood, no. There's 4 homes going there, and we've been flooding since. I've got proof positive pictures, if you would like, prior to construction, when they put the sand to build up where they were going to put the homes. We had 2 inches of rain, and the entire area flooded. One of the commissioners come out. A van purposely drove through the water and got him muddy water in his face, deliberate. And this is what we have to deal with. Would you please, when it floods, shut the road down, make sure it stays shut until the water recedes, until we get this issue fixed?
Whose responsibility would it be, just so we know, to close those roads down she's talking about with the flooding? Is that something that staff directs, So it's on that Public Works directs, or who ends up making that decision and setting up?
When our public works staff come across a roadway that is flooded and we feel it's a hazard, now, if it's just an inch or two and it's not a problem, then we put up barricades in the road but slightly on the shoulder so that people are warned that there's a hazard. But on the case of DeLisa, where there was significant depth, we put barricades all the way across the road to close the road. But our guys, number one, they don't have enforcement powers, and number two, they were very, very busy during that time with all sorts of calls and flooded roads that they're responding to. So we do not have the staff to park them there on every road, every end of every road that's closed, to try to force people to go around. So while we'll close a road, we're not there to monitor, what happens after we leave.
Well, for our part, we'll make sure that if it's closed in the future, that we'll make sure to communicate to our team to make sure that we're not driving through there. But if there's private dump trucks or other folks that are going through, we can't have any control over that, and that's where, our sheriff's deputies will do the great job that they do and step in.
They try.
Thanks for bringing this to our attention, and we'll try to do better the next time.
I mean, I even called the landfill and asked and pleaded with them, because they have to go to the scale, would you please ask the drivers not to come this way? They didn't care. It's the fastest route to wherever it is they're going. I mean, I understand, and now we're talking about the courthouse and dump trucks. I mean, this poor little road is so busy. You got the trust company, which is on that end of towards Avalon, continually comes this way. The road's not designed for truss. It's 2 feet hanging over. So they're driving down the middle of the road. But besides all that, I know there's nothing we can do about that. I've already been told that, and I've been told, be careful where you live. It wasn't like this in 2002 when I moved in. We never flooded. Since those 4 homes were approved and put in place, now we flood. Again, they attempted to fix the problem. A nice gentleman donated some land to allow pipe to be piped into the corner on Kapok, but it failed this time. So just west of the Sundial, what used to be the Sundial Utilities, the Richardson Electric Company, I do believe, that culvert and the farm at Audis and DeLisa has had standing water for over a month. And you talking about Mosquitoville, I'll take the frogs on Tracy any day. I'll take the thousands of frogs because I'll eat the mosquitoes, but we have been inundated with bugs. And it's a cesspool. It just sits there. It's not moving anymore. The drainage is not maintained, and you would think that particular, if you're going to continue to have the trucks go to the landfill, that would be a priority to keep those drains clear of trash. Even the culverts that go underneath the driveways into the business, make sure they are clean so the water can flow. And now it's not flowing.
I'm sure that based on the conversation today, there isn't a work order in for that area. There will be one put in. And here again, appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and we'll try to get better.
Yeah, because like I said, you've got 2 homes in foreclosure now, and people are like, I don't want to deal with this. Yep. And that's revenue that you could potentially be losing. And I would appreciate, like I say, again, my hat's off to the police. I felt so bad for them because they were so apologetic, because they had no back. They were stretched thin, and I understand that. I completely understand. I used to be in emergency services, so, stuff happens, and I understand. And I want to thank them so much, and the emergency management, because they actually came down, sat there by the road closed sign, with the road closed sign, videotaped it, and put it on Facebook. Please, people, heed the sign. Road closed. Don't drive through it, because you're causing property damage with the waves. And so, yes, thank you. I would really want it. When it floods, completely shut it, somehow, some way.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Having no further action to come before the board, we are adjourned.